Welcome into the NFL Opening Line Report Monday, November 23rd. It's week 12 in the NFL, Teddy, and we got some good games on Thursday, on Sunday, the Monday nighter as well. So welcome in. Happy Monday morning to you, Teddy.
Hey, great to be here, Drew. Obviously, Thanksgiving week. This is when the NFL starts to get serious. You know, all the playoff races, all of a sudden, we're trying to win some games. Now it gets real. So we're into the stretch run of the NFL season. Let's see if we can help you with the opening line report today and get a sense of where these numbers are, why they are, where they are, and what we expect to see between now and kickoff, both for Turkey Day and for Sunday.
10 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Pacific, some Mondays. Each and every Monday, simulcast live on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. This is the NFL Opening Line Report. But, Teddy, before we get to it, we do have Monday Night Football tonight, 473-474, LA Rams, Tampa Bay Bucks. Good game here in the NFC. We got the Bucks -4 at Raymond James, 48.5 being the total here, Teddy. Any quick thoughts here with the Rams and Buccaneers?
Yeah, the 48.5s are pretty well gone right now. We're looking at 48s across the board. And, there's a couple of them out there. I do lean under in this ballgame. I lean under in any way we can get. I lean under for Tom Brady passing yards. I lean under for Jared Goff passing yards. We're talking about two QBs who have a recent history of failures against quality defenses. And we're talking about two quality defenses in the Bucs and the Rams. So I don't trust either QB to move the offense up or down the field tonight. I expect a relatively low-scoring affair.
Yeah, and we have seen a little bit of under money so far today. So you're right, Teddy. The 48.5s are not many left in that one. But, guys, we got 3 games on Thursday and then a bunch on Sunday we're going to cover here on the NFL Opening Line Report. Feel free to chime in the chat box if you're watching live. Also, if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a comment below on YouTube, also wherever you're downloading your podcast at Sports Memo Podcast. Teddy, Thursday's slate here as we open up the NFL Opening Line Report. Looks like 9:30 a.m. Pacific on Thursday. We got Thanksgiving Day here, 1-2-1, 1-2-2 Houston at Detroit. We're seeing 51.5 being the total here, -2 in the hook. That's Houston laying on the road.
Should we doodly-oop right from the get-go?
All right, let's get after it. Doodly-oop, doodly-oop. Yeah. That one's for you, Coy.
Absolutely. This is an emergency betting alert right from the get-go because this line's going to 3. And if it doesn't goes to 3, I'd be surprised if it doesn't go. But if it doesn't goes to 3, there are certainly trends that point towards teams off a shutout loss that the wise guy's going to like for Detroit in this ballgame. Strong trends that have cashed both short-term and long-term, although there is one caveat to the angles that point towards the Lions as a good bet coming off the shutout loss. And that, of course, is when you look at the trends, it's like 80% on teams on a shutout loss the following week is home dog. They've done very, very well. However, when you look at the short weeks, there's a very small sample size. But when you look at the teams off a shutout loss on a short week the following week, all of a sudden that 80% trend turns into a 0% trend. It hasn't been good, so be aware of that. So with all of these games, we're going to talk what the look-ahead line was, what my powering number is, and where the markets are today. There was no look-ahead line for Houston-Detroit. There was questions about Matthew Stafford. There were questions about a number of lines, and there still are coming into Thursday's game. But there was no look-ahead line here. My powering number has Houston 3. The markets are at 2.5. There's a couple of 3s popping. I do think this line is going to move to 3. But the fact that it hasn't gotten there already tells me that there's some resistance. Does that make sense? There's definitely some resistance. And the Panthers defense isn't good enough to pitch shutouts. And yet the Lions got shut out. Stafford was sacked 5 times. They averaged 3.4 yards per play. The running game didn't work. 17 carries for 40 yards without DeAndre Swift. Didn't have Kenny Golladay. Didn't have Danny Amendola. Carolina had forced 2 punts in their last 4 games in the first half, and the Lions punted 4 times in the first half yesterday. So, Carolina had the worst third down defense in the NFL going into Sunday. The Lions converted 3rd of 14 yesterday. And, of course, they played a bad game yesterday. The question is, can this team respond to that on the short week with what is increasingly looking like a lame duck head coach and increasingly looking like a quarterback who doesn't necessarily want to be there? The Kelly Stafford comments. I understand it's coach's wife. You don't want to put too much into that. But when the coach's wife gets national TV love about news about this state stinks and we hate the governor and we hate Michigan, it's not a strong. It doesn't bode well for the Lions. I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of support. And it's a Texans team that they've got injuries as well at wide receiver. Randall Cobb hurt, Kenny Stills hurt. Suddenly we had a Kiki Kute sighting, and of course, Houston yesterday couldn't run the football at all. David Johnson, 10 carries for 15 yards. Procise had 4 yards rushing. Deshaun Watson was everything for Houston yesterday, but Deshaun Watson's everything for Houston every game. Right. He was incredible, and Matthew Stafford isn't right now. And that's, I can't, I'd be surprised this line doesn't go to 3 by kickoff. I really would.
Teddy, it seems like one of those where you, throughout the week, you'll be able to find the line you want on either team. You think, if you like Houston, maybe wait until 3 start popping up primarily. And if you like Detroit, the opposite. You think
no, the other way around. Houston's laying 2.5. And again, on game day, I do think this is going to go to 3. I'm not convinced it gets there before then. So we call it an emergency betting alert. Like, you got to bet it now. And there's caveat to that. It's clear to me the fact that this hasn't moved to 3 across the board already, that there is resistance, which means that the 3s across the board may not come until the hour before kickoff. But we're not going to see a broad market support for the Lions on Sunday. We're just not.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I said that opposite, Teddy. So thanks for correcting me.
And last thing worth noting, Matt Patricia has played at a home game on Thanksgiving every year, and the Lions haven't won any of them during his tenure. Lions' last home win on Thanksgiving came back in 2016.
Do you think there's anything to that, like repeatable, or is it just kind of a short week thing?
Do you want Patricia on a short week? On a short week, I want the good coaching staffs.
Okay. But I don't know, but I also want the home team.
Yeah, sure. Lions are home every year at Thanksgiving.
And it still hasn't worked out. So you're right. I think there's more to the opposite case in that one. But Teddy, we got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4 up next, 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific kick here. Washington at the Dallas Cowboys. We're seeing the Cowboys -2 in the hook here in Jerry's world, 46.5 being the total.
Yeah, and I was going to put an emergency betting alert on Washington +3. They're gone already. We may see more. We may see them pop up again before kickoff. We probably will see them pop off before kickoff, but they're not there now. Look headline: Dallas -1. My powering number: Dallas -2. The market's now at 2.5. And certainly there are things to like about what the Cowboys did yesterday. Zach Martin back in the lineup, but he's starting at right tackle. Zeke Elliott, he could probably play any position on the OL and be dominant. That's rare, and a lot of the runs today were behind Zach. We know he's the strength of our offense. Of course, Zeke with 103 yards on 21 carries yesterday, the first 100-yard games he's had all year. And there's a thought process in the market still that Dallas is the best team in the NFC East, that it's not necessarily that close. Dak Prescott got hurt, and then Dalton started 2 games, and then Ben DiNucci started a game, and then Garrett Gilbert started a game. Now we're back to Dalton. And he was certainly serviceable yesterday. CeeDee Lamb helped him out a lot. But the fact was the offensive line was able to give him time. That may not work against a Washington team that's got a pretty good defensive line that was able to control the line of scrimmage out there. A couple of quotes I want to talk about from the Washington side after finally getting a win for Alex Smith. Steven Sims, I say, the wide receiver, quote, "It's a different feeling when he's back there. Players say they feed off his calm demeanor." Terry McLaurin, the second-year wideout, quote, "One thing I could say about Alex is he never makes it about him. He has every reason to kind of be, look at my comeback story, look what I've done. But he makes it about the team. He tries to keep everyone even-keeled and focused on the task at hand. See him come back, get a win and a starter. That's not only motivation to us as players, but motivation to everyone who watched that injury." And of course, now Washington within a half game of the lead in the NFC East. It's anyone's division. But Dallas is going to get the market support. No one's looking at Washington saying this is a playoff team. Everyone's looking at Dallas saying, look at that skill position talent. The offensive line is healthier now. I know the first money came on Washington plus. I would not be surprised at all to see Dallas go off as 3-point favorites here.
Teddy,
in fact, if you like the Cowboys, I'd grab it now at 2.5.
Okay. Looking towards the Cowboys, -2.5. And Teddy, talking about two NFC East teams here. I mean, this is turning into a heck of a race. I kind of say that tongue in cheek, but
it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And everyone is live.
Exactly. I mean, 3-7, and then Philadelphia at the top, 3-6-1, top of the division. Teddy, if you had to pick one, who do you think wins the NFC East?
Who am I getting the biggest long shot odds on?
Okay, so you're just going straight plus price, not betting.
But I mean, again, Washington and the Giants were both like 20-1, 50-1 to win the division.
Yeah.
And they're both live. So, but Dallas is, I mean, on paper, Dallas is the best team there.
I don't know.
The Giants are live. The Giants are dead Cowboys. I don't think that. Well, I've seen enough, and we'll get to Philly. Well, we'll talk about the other team. I could really go back and forth. I think everybody's live, and whatever you're getting the biggest plus prices, you should probably be interested in.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of want to go check these prices, just something to wager. And guys watching live,
they were much better a month ago. They were great a month. When in September these prices were ridiculous.
Okay, now they're
for the bad division. I'm not convinced. You're not going to find anyone 20-1 anymore to win this division.
No.
The favorites have crashed and burned.
For sure, Teddy. Well, we got one more here on Thursday, Thanksgiving to the nightcap. Should be a lot of tickets written on this one. 8:20 Eastern, 5:20 Pacific kick here. Baltimore at Pittsburgh. We're seeing the Steelers mostly -3 in the hooks now, Teddy. The -3s, there is one offshore with some juice on it. 45.5 being the total, and that's the Steelers -3.5 at home.
Sure. A look ahead line here. Pittsburgh -2.5. My powering number is Steelers -5.5, but I'm not touching my powering number for this game. All right, even though my powering number says you got to take Pittsburgh, this is a rivalry where you don't want to be laying points, and you definitely don't want to be laying more than a field goal. And I understand why the number is where it is. And from a spot standpoint, the Ravens coming off the OT loss, they haven't played good football over the course of the last month. They have issues at offensive tackle. They have issues with downfield playmakers. Dez Bryant, not the answer at wide receiver, 4.9 yards per play against a mediocre Titans D yesterday. And, of course, a couple of starting linemen on injury reserve, Ronnie Stanley, Tyree Phillips. Matt Skura got benched. They have a couple of defensive linemen sidelines and Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams. Difference makers. Okay? So there's a lot of issues on the Baltimore side here. There really are. But and look at their wins this opening day. They have Houston, Washington, Cincy, Philly. One quality win is Indy. And the Colts didn't play good that game. They've lost 3 of their last 4. They dropped back-to-back games. Now they're in third place in the AFC North. They blew a double-digit lead in the second half. They're not a con. Look at the Derek Wolfe. We just can't put 60 minutes together as a football team. Sometimes this happens when you have a lot of young guys on the field. It takes time for them to get battle hardened and get this bad taste in their mouth. They feel like they never want to feel that again. We've just got to play better football. We've got to tackle. There's a lot of stuff in there that tells me that Baltimore's not any good.
Mm-hmm.
Injuries, weird quotes, lack of quality wins. So I understand that the Steelers, from a spot standpoint, the Ravens are supposed to step it up right here and yada, yada. And Pittsburgh, again, when you look at the teams that start 10-0, 18th team in the Super Bowl era to do it. 10 of those previous 17 got the Super Bowl. 6 of the previous 17 won the Super Bowl. They're mostly healthy. They do have quick concerns about Joe Hayden and Juju Smith-Schuster, both of whom got hurt on Sunday. Haven't seen updates yet today. But Pittsburgh's dirty little secret, they cannot run the football. 3.9 yards per carry against the Jags. In a game, they're blowing them out. They couldn't get the starters off the field. They wanted to rest the starters in the fourth quarter. Couldn't get them off the field. They couldn't move the football on the ground. Jags have a bad run defense. That 3 straight games of less than 50 rushing yards, and then 3.9 yards per carry against the Jags. This is a problem for Pittsburgh moving forward. And I'm seeing the markets are moving right now. Something just happened. I don't know what. Let me see what this note is on this game.
And Teddy, we are seeing 3.5 pretty much across the board. Also, keep in mind, the Steelers 10-0 straight up, 8-2 ATS. They've been a great bet, so that's they're getting a lot of following in the betting markets. But have at it, Teddy.
They sure are. There's a COVID situation in Baltimore. It's still on. Here's a quote: Baltimore versus Pittsburgh is still on the schedule for Thursday. As of now, with positive tests inside the Ravens facility. A bunch of books just took it off the board since we started talking.
Ooh, Las Vegas Chris, our boy.
Chris, nice.
Okay, so I mean, how much does that change things for you, Teddy? Obviously, it's huge coming off the board.
It's so, as we've seen repeatedly in both the NFL and college, it matters who's who's missing and how many people are missing, and you don't want to bet on the COVID. Oh, well, someone's got COVID. You want to know who's got COVID, and right now I don't know.
Okay,
Ravens can't play from ahead. That's long double-digit lead.
True that, Teddy. We got Sunday's action here, 251, 252 to kick it off. Las Vegas Raiders, our Las Vegas Raiders, Teddy, at the Atlanta Falcons. We're seeing the Raiders minus a field goal, -3, pretty much across the board. 55 being the total in Mercedes-Benz. What are you thinking at the top of the card on Sunday, Teddy?
So look-ahead line was pick 'em. My powering number is Vegas -2, and we're seeing threes. I'm a little disappointed in this number. I was hoping I would be able to get to Las Vegas in this ballgame. If you watched Atlanta yesterday, there are big issues, and on both sides of football. That was a team that came out of their bye. And I've seen a lot of the teams come out of the bye and look flat in the first half. But Atlanta came out, they looked so flat yesterday. They really did. And, of course, if you can't protect Matt Ryan, the offense is useless. And Matt Ryan took, 8 sacks? And they didn't have any clean pockets. And most importantly, you watch Justin Herbert under pressure. He's standing there in the pocket, taking hits and delivering strikes downfield. Matt Ryan yesterday, by the third quarter, was not standing there in the pocket, taking hits and delivering strikes downfield. He was either checking the ball off or just ducking his head in.
Right.
In Atlanta's first 9 games, they allowed 2 sacks or fewer in 8 of them, and they got ripped up yesterday. And, of course, 3.7 yards per carry for Atlanta in that ballgame with a long of 7 yards. At one point in the middle of the fourth quarter, they had a -4 yards of offense in the second half. And Julio Jones hurt again yesterday. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. And, of course, you look at their schedule down the stretch. You put the interim coach in there. Yeah, their schedule down the stretch. Chargers, Bucs, Chiefs, Bucs again, Raiders, Saints. It's brutal for Atlanta. And, of course, for the Raiders last week, they had the whole week where they didn't have their defense on the practice field. 10 of the 11 players with their COVID issue were on the defense side of the football. And, of course, the Raiders still covered last night against the Chiefs. But one would think that Paul Gunther may have a better defensive game plan this time around if he actually has guys to coach up this week as opposed to everyone sitting in the locker room. So, again, I don't think it's going to go higher than 3. This total's already on the rise, but it's not steaming or anything, 55 and a half. Not seeing there's no urgency to get to the window with this one just yet.
Teddy, next game up, we got 253, 254. Interesting handicap. Arizona at New England. We're seeing 49.5, 49 being the total in Gillette. -2 in the hook. That's the road Cardinals at the New England Patriots. Packs up against the wall here, Teddy.
So this is an interesting one because the look-ahead line here was pick 'em. All right. And the Cardinals lost on Thursday night at Seattle. Didn't play particularly well. And now they're 2.5-point favorites, So we're clearly seeing a market crash on New England a little bit again. The markets have been consistently wrong about the Patriots this year.
That's true.
Would you say?
Yeah,
there's no read on New England. And yesterday, all the Patriots money came in, and then now we're seeing the markets have made again. This is pick 'em and look ahead. Both teams lost by the same margin, by 7 points, and yet now we're seeing 2.5s here. So there has been an adjustment. Here's a stat worth noting: when Kyler Murray is held to 30 rushing yards or less, to less than 30, 29 or less. The Cardinals, that's happened 10 times as a starter. Cardinals are 1-8-1 in those games.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Good find.
Murray's running has been the key. Against Seattle, he looked, it was on a short week, and he looked gassed, and he didn't get out of the pocket and run, and he 5 for 5 carries, 15 yards. And, of course, longest run was 8 yards. Seahawks contained him very, very well. When we think about Belichick's defenses against mobile QBs, he's had a better game plan than most quarterbacks, than most coaches do.
That Lamar Jackson game stands out.
There's been a bunch, So if Arizona can't, if Arizona doesn't win when Murray doesn't have, doesn't run, and this is not a game where I'm thinking him to run. All that said, I mean, the Patriots, they did something right. They had these awful first quarters. They scored only their second first quarter touchdown on offense all year yesterday. And yet, as the game progressed, the Patriots offense Cam Newton called it one-dimensional. They weren't running the football. This is a Patriots team that hasn't lost 6 games in any season since 2009. All right, they just lost the 6th game. Last time they didn't make the playoffs was 2008. And this is a team right now that, basically got to win out to have a chance. Bill Belichick, quote, disappointing, but we'll turn the page and move on. Still have a lot of confidence and belief in the team. If we can just do things a little bit better, I think the results will be different and better. We just couldn't do it today. Most notably, the pass rush wasn't there today. 0 sacks on Russell Wilson. Safety Adrian Phillips, quote, it's been must win for us for the past 3 to 4 weeks. We have 6 losses now. It is what it is. We can't lose another one. We felt like that when we had 5 losses, but it's even more now. Losing these AFC teams doesn't help either. We know our back is against the wall. In theory, this is a Patriots back against the wall type of game where they where they contain a mobile quarterback and win the contest. That's for every New England team of the last 20 years. I'm not convinced it's going to be this New England team. That said, the markets aren't doing anything with this. I think it sits 2.5 all week. I don't see it moving to 3. I don't see. I shouldn't say that it sits 2.5 all week. I don't think it gets to 3. I think at 3 we will see buyback on New England. So 2.5 to me feels like the number moving forward.
Okay, good stuff, Teddy, on that one. We got another fascinating handicap here, 255, 256, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick. New York Football Giants at the Cincinnati Bengals, 42 being the total. Quarterback questions here, Teddy. -5.5, seeing -5 as well. That's the New York Football Giants road favorites in this one.
Yeah, we'll doodly-oop this one too.
Doodly-oop? Doodly-oop?
Yeah, because it's just Giants money. This line is only going to go up. That being said, look ahead line, Cincy -3. Okay.
Huge move.
My powering numbers, the Giants -4, open 4.5. We're seeing 5.5. We're seeing 6. I don't know how high it's going to go. All I know is that no one's betting Cincinnati right now. So if you like the Giants, get to the window. And I mean, the Bengals yesterday had no punts in the first half. No turnovers in the first. There was a 4th down fumble, but I call that a stop on downs. No punts or turnovers at halftime, and they finished with 9 total points at the break, which is, how do you do that? It's an offense that's just not efficient. And then, of course, Burrow got hurt. Ryan Finley came in, and Finley looked shell-shocked. I mean, it was over when Finley came in the game. Burrow didn't take a sack. Finley had 3 out of 10 for 30 yards passing. And his 4 sacks that he took was for negative 31 yards. And actually had a negative net on the 14 dimes that he dropped back to pass. The markets are not going to be excited about Ryan Finley this week. Zach Taylor, after the game, every quote's about the season in the past tense. All right. Talking about Burrow. He was making improvements every week, and we were getting the offense headed in the direction that we thought was exciting. We felt like we were making a lot of progress over the last 5 weeks. We're not going to apologize for any of that. I didn't like any quotes from Cincy in the locker room. Certainly yesterday's game, pretty disheartening for Bengals and their fans. But, of course, with the Giants, I mean, you're talking about a team that just they have 1 win this year by this type of margin, okay? And you just had I'm going to call it a significant situation in the locker room with Joe Judge and the head coach and the offensive line coach. They're saying it wasn't a physical altercation, but nonetheless, Mark Colombo got fired or quit or walked out the door. And this is a team that drafted 3 rookie linemen with their first 5 picks. They're desperate for anything to get the offensive line working. And the fact that, Judge and his OL coach, nearly came to blows, and the OL is still having issues, and the Giants aren't a team that's, wins games by margin, and no one's betting Cincy this week. Yeah, I mean, you can make a case for the Giants. This is a point spread range that is a bit much for me, but the money's coming on the G-men. If you like the Giants, bet them sooner rather than later.
And Teddy, I mean, the chat box is agreeing with you. Ryan Finley, not a lot of people liking him. What about, there's a case to be made, and something I actually looked to bet on more so in college than the NFL, Teddy, when a quarterback comes in mid-game and does not look good, then has a full week of practice with the ones, he tends to look better in that start the next time out. Do you see any truth to that in the NFL and in this situation with Ryan Finley, who, by the way, Boise State and then NC State look good at NC State for the Wolfpack? There are some guys asking, who is he?
Sure. So, I mean, in general, I think the stronger case might be the other side.
Okay.
Where the QB comes in, he looks like the second coming. QB comes in off the bench, and he looks great. And then the next week, opposing coach has some film to break down on him, and maybe he doesn't have that, that hot coming off the bench into the game. That's one that I definitely look for. Is a guy where there's no film on him, and now no film on him, and then all of a sudden, now we have film on him.
Okay.
I'm not sold on Ryan Finley being the Bengals have playmakers. Okay. They have playmakers on the outside. If the quarterback can get the ball in their hands, they can make plays. Didn't happen yesterday. Not convinced it happens here.
In Teddy, in terms of value for one player in the NFL, I didn't know Joe Burrow had this much pull in the betting markets. I mean, he's one of the more valuable players in all of the NFL, right?
So I was debating how much to adjust down. I adjusted down 4 points on Cincinnati. And the 4 points I adjusted down gave me a point spread of Giants -4. Okay. I didn't put Cincinnati down to the Jets level. I don't think I put them down to the Jags level. They're in that range. They're in the Jags range now.
Okay.
But even with them as a bottom 3 team in the NFL, my number still only came Giants -4. And I got the Giants, power rated as a decent team, not as a bottom feeder.
Okay, good stuff. Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. I'm on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Guys, this is the NFL opening line report, 10:10 a.m. Pacific start time each and every Monday. Come and join us live, simulcast on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. If you like it in podcast form, Sports Memo Podcast. We got Cleveland at Jacksonville up next, Teddy, 257, 258. We're seeing Cleveland, the Browns, -6 in the hook, mostly on the road, 48.5 being the total in Jacksonville.
Look ahead line was Cleveland -6. My powering number is high on this one, 8.5. We haven't seen the sevens truly start to pop. I think they may well pop on this game. But the fact that they haven't, that we're not seeing 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. I probably should put it on the, we could doodly oop it. I made an executive decision not to doodly oop it. Because it hasn't gone. I mean, again, I want to see the market showing. I'm actually seeing some signs now. We've got a couple leading indicator books that have moved to 7 on this game, literally recently. So I can't click around to find out exactly what minute they went. But if you like, and again, my powering number on the game was 8.5. So I do think if you like the Browns, it's not going to hurt you to get to the window sooner rather than later. And the Jags, I mean, there are all kinds of issues in Jacksonville. I don't think we see Jake Luton again. 4 interceptions, 2 sacks yesterday. Averaged 3.7 yards per play. Jacksonville did. I would expect we'll see Gardner Minshew back in the lineup. Although, again, from a powering standpoint, how much better is Minshew? That's maybe why this line's sitting at 6.5 and not getting a 7. But the bigger issue for Jacksonville, besides every other issue they have, is the defensive injuries. I mean, yesterday they lost, their best pass rusher, Josh Allen, got hurt. Quarterback Chris Claybooks got hurt. Safety Daniel Thomas got hurt. Quarterback DJ Hayden got hurt. They all left the game, did not return. Claybooks was starting because Sidney Jones was out, and CJ Henderson went on the IR with a groin injury earlier in the week. This team has nobody in the secondary. They are not healthy. Quincy Williams is hurt, linebacker. The defense, there's a reason that they're giving up. They've given up 24 plus in 9 straight games, longest streak in franchise history. All those games have been straight up losses, ties the longest single season losing streak in franchise history. It's a lame duck head coach. The effort was there for a couple of weeks after the bye. They lost 2 close ones. It wasn't there the same way yesterday. I'm not convinced we're going to see market support for the Jags this time around. All that said, I mean, the Browns, their statistics are going to be absolutely skewed. They haven't played one quagmire game. They haven't played two. They played three in their last three games where there's no way the offense is going to move the football. There were 2 win games, and yesterday was a rain game, and it wasn't a little rain game. The rain was pouring. So the last 3 games the Browns have played against the Raiders, Texans, and Eagles, they say, oh, my God, they don't score points. They only scored 2 offensive touchdowns in those games. Well, they won 2 out of 3, and they're there are things to like about Cleveland. I like their attitude. I'll tell you what. Myles Garrett gets put on the COVID list, and what happens? Everybody else steps up on the defensive line. They had a monster game. Garrett had as many sacks, 9.5 as the rest of the team, or the rest of the team had 12.5. And then yesterday, the defense pretty well dominates. And, of course, they lost OBJ. They didn't have Garrett, and they're still finding ways to win. And, no, it's not pretty. Cleveland hasn't been pretty. And in this point spread range, maybe you want a team that's a little bit prettier. But the Browns are capable of handing the football off and running the ball down Jacksonville's throat. That may not bode well for the Jaguars. We are seeing 7s popping. I wouldn't be surprised if the line moves that way in a broader sense. But that Browns statistical profile is likely to keep some people off of Cleveland, even though it comes with a big asterisk for me.
Teddy, we got 259-260 up next as we work our way down the Sunday card in rotation order. 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick in this one. Carolina at Minnesota. Vikings -4.5 home favorites, 49 being the total.
And of course, we're back to a full 16-game slate. The last of the bye weeks was this past week in the NFL. So there are a couple more games that we got to get through today, although there's a bunch of games down at the bottom of the card that aren't fully lined yet. Look ahead line here, Minnesota -3.5. My powering number, Minnesota -2.5. The markets are saying Minnesota -4.5, and I understand it. I do. For as much success as the Panthers had yesterday, and PJ Walker made some nice throws. Mm-hmm. He also made some awful throws, and threw 2 bad interceptions in the red zone. I would expect we're going to see Teddy Bridgewater back this week. Bridgewater, they say was 85% in pregame warmups. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Bridgewater. And if we see Bridgewater, we may well see a little Carolina money. Safety Trey Boston. This is a line. This is a quote worth mentioning here. The first shutout for Carolina since 2015, their Super Bowl season. He called it a brand win. Brand win. So what's the brand? We're the toughest, hardest working team in the league. And Carolina, there's an argument. Matt Rule's teams do that. And this team has absolutely bought in on Matt Rule's personality. So we'll give them all kinds of credit. And the Vikings, they had a bad day yesterday. They were every bit as flat as the markets thought they would be after 3 straight division wins. They had a bad run defense all day. Cousins, had a 137.2 QB rating in the fourth quarter. Ranked number 1 in the NFL as a fourth quarter QB. Dalvin Cook broke the all-time Minnesota record for most scrimmage yards in 4 games. But the defense pressured Andy Dalton, just 4 of 34 dropbacks. They sacked him just once. Minnesota's young defensive backfield has played well in recent weeks. They got torched by Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb yesterday. Zeke Elliott ran for 100 yards against them. And when the Vikings needed the defense to come through with 1 stop at the end of the game, they didn't get there. That concerns me about a team laying points here. It does, even in what should be, in theory, a bounce-back spot. And, of course, the fact that Carolina looked good yesterday and Minnesota not so much, I'm not convinced we're going to see a ton of Viking support in the markets this week. This 4.5, to me, looks a little bit high, and I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down a little bit.
He's Teddy Covers on Wager Talk and SportsMemo.com. He's hot right now. 68% all sports since Halloween. 9-2, 82% November NFL. Up over 60% in his 5%. That's the top rated plays in the NFL this full season. And my favorite stat, guys, 209 and 160. That's 57% in the NFL since week 1 of 2015. So some short-term trends there. And more importantly, the long-term trends here. 57% beating the NFL betting markets. Check them out. SportsMemo or WagerTalk.com. Also keep in mind, it's $9 Monday. He's got a top play up right now. discounted to just $9, and 3-7 30-day full season packages available. So check them out at both Wager Talk and sportsmemo.com. Teddy, next game up, 261-262, Tennessee at Indianapolis. We got the Colts -3 in the hook at home, 49.5 being the total, Teddy.
Look ahead line here, Indy -4.5. My powering number, Indy -3. And right now the markets are kind of in between the two, sitting at 3.5. There are a couple. There's one prominent 4 that stands out there, and I don't think the markets. They're not going to like Tennessee anymore now than they did last week. You know, this is a team that is struggling defensively in a lot of ways. You know, they entered yesterday 31st in the NFL in third down conversion defense, and the Ravens converted 9 of 14 against Tennessee yesterday. They lost, you know, Jaylen Brown, a huge injury at inside linebacker. He's going to miss the remainder of the season. The defense didn't force a punt for the first 3 quarters. You know, and with the injuries on the offensive line, there are significant, you know, concerns. Ryan Tannehill's under pressure in the way that he wasn't. And yet, in the fourth quarter, I got to talk about Jaylen Brown, the injury for Brown. His backup, David Long, is on the COVID-19 list, and they were stuck to, they pulled up a guy from the practice squad on Saturday. He was in the game yesterday on Sunday as the key inside linebacker. So, you know, that's where Tennessee is right now, which is definitely a concern. And I saw that someone just put that they don't believe Indy. I don't believe Indy either. And look, you know, I'll give the Colts. Frank Reich is a smart coach. And down 2 touchdowns after halftime yesterday, I thought the Colts game plan was brilliant. They just pounded the football against it and wore down that Green Bay defense. And they ended up, you know, Jonathan Taylor had a big day. They ended up rushing for 97 of their 140 yards in the second half. In the second half and overtime. And I mean, the refs, I had a play on Green Bay yesterday, and I felt confident with that play. The whole right till the fumble that cost us the game, I felt good about that. I'm like Aaron Rodgers going to march down the field. They call the 9 holding penalties. That's the most holding penalties on any team in any game since 2003. And it's like the refs were trying to give the Packers the game 14 different ways, and Indy was good enough not to give it to him. So I'll give him credit, but they still have offensive line issues. Clearly, I'm kind of going back and forth. I feel like I've used up my analysis on this game without making a point. But it's certainly a game. I think the Colts may be overvalued off of yesterday's win. I worry about the Titans. Both teams played OT. I don't know, man. It's a game I'm going to think about. Clearly, I'm all over the map with it.
And Teddy, I mean, both teams, you know, like you just talked about, the Colts, you know, keeping it on the ground, pounding away at Green Bay. We know Tennessee likes to keep it on the ground. What do you think about this total? I'm kind of liking the under as high as 50.
Yeah, but Indy's defense may be a little bit overrated, and Tennessee's defense is garbage. You know,
okay.
So
no, it's fair enough.
It's hard for me to. And again, so I mean, the Colts gave up 28 in the first half to the Packers yesterday. I'll talk about it more with Green Bay when we get to the Green Bay game. But
okay,
Green Bay not scoring in the second half was all about Green Bay. It had nothing to do with it. Really had nothing to do with Indy. You know, with the Packers just not. They had multiple third downs that they just needed. They did not. They just open guys or someone to make a play and they didn't execute them. And the Colts defense is, oh wow, they shut down Green Bay. Yeah, they did. But, you know, not with the game on the line, they didn't. You know, Packers were able to march down the field, put it in the I thought they were going to put it in the end zone. They didn't have just enough time to kick the field goal. Whatever. That game made me really frustrated.
Teddy, we got 263, 264 up next. LA Chargers, not to be confused with the San Diego Chargers, at the Buffalo Bills. Bills -5 in the hook at home, 54 the total in this one, Teddy.
Let's doodly-oop on this total.
Doodly-oop for the total.
Yeah, if you like the over, it's we've already seen over money. We're going to see more over money, given the potential weather. Okay, you know, anytime you're talking about Buffalo, you want to be aware this is a Sunday line movement. Normally, this look ahead forecast that people pay attention to are more like 5-6 days out. So look at that Buffalo weather tomorrow and Wednesday if you bet this over now. because he may need to get off it, which is maybe why we shouldn't have deluged it. But the early money has absolutely come on the over for this one, and I can understand why. Chargers passing game is elite right now. Look ahead line was Buffalo -6. My powering number is Buffalo -5. We're looking at 5.5 right now. Not often we can say a rookie quarterback is elite in a passing game, but you have a wide receivers who can catch. You have a quarterback who can throw. 7 of their first 8 drives yesterday went 8 or more plays. I know it's the Jets, but the defense lacks conditioning. Maybe I know they run on this team every week, and they have special teams issues. Remember they had a block punt, punt blocked against them in Miami. They had a block punt against them against the Jets last week, which is a major concern. It's a hard team to lay points with, given the fact that the defense can't hold any leads in the fourth quarter. And again, in a game they absolutely dominated. There was a chance for the Jets to win in regulation at the end because of the clock management screw up, where they took the safety and still had to punt. You're supposed to take the safety as the last play. You don't take the safety with 1 second left, and then you have to punt. If you get some crazy play, then you can lose the game. Those are the type of mistakes that you can't have. Buffalo last 2 years, 2018, 2019, they were allowed the fewest yards and the fourth fewest yards per yards per game. This year they're like bottom half of the league in those numbers. They give up, and we're seeing some defensive improvement. The first 6 games, they allowed 54% on third downs. The last 4 games, they're number 7 in the NFL, under 35%. Red zone efficiency, they were allowed 69% touchdowns the first 6 games. The last 4 is down to 50%. So they've been better. They forced 9 turnovers in 4 weeks during that span before the bye. That was the most forced turnovers in the NFL. But this is a run defense that ranks number 29th in the league in yards per carry, and they're dead last in the NFL over the last 4 weeks. That definitely, to me, is a concern here against the Chargers. You worry about the spot West Coast team traveling east for an early start game. You worry about the weather for the Chargers. You worry about the Chargers coming off a win. And yet at the same time, this is not a spot where I want to lay with Buffalo. And I'm surprised the line's holding as high as it is. I would not be I would be shocked if we see we're not going to see a lot of Chargers money. Just given the spot, we're not going to see it with the Bills coming off the overtime, or the Hail Mary loss and then the bye week. The market's going to look at Buffalo and saying this is their spot to bounce back. I might look at the Chargers in that game. I really might.
Teddy, next game up, talking about the New York Jets here. They're getting some, at least in my opinion, betting market respect, under a touchdown, home underdogs here. We're talking the Miami Dolphins at the New York Jets, AFC East rivalry here. We got the Dolphins mostly -6.5, 44.5 being the total in MetLife.
Look ahead line -7. My powering number, Dolphins -9. And the market 7 down to 6.5 for this one. And it feels like we could emergency betting alert it, but I don't think the broader market's going to go to 6.5. I think that as the week progresses, we're going to see plenty of Dolphins money. Okay. That said, the wise guys hate this Miami team. Hate them with a passion. All right. Why? Because the Dolphins continue to lose box scores. Okay. Box score yesterday in Denver looked bad. They got outrushed 189-56 yesterday. So Brian Flores, quote, Tua wasn't injured. We just felt like it was the best move at the point of the game. We had to get in 2-minute mode. We felt Fitzpatrick gave us the best chance to win the game. We had the opportunity at the end to tie it, and they did.
Yeah.
I thought that, and as I take my notes during the game, I'm like, these blitz packages are really messing up Tua. And then next thing you know, there was Fitz testing defenses deep. So now it's an enemy team that Tua took 6 sacks before getting benched. Fitz had 0. And by the way, Tua had only been sacked 4 times the previous 4 games. So he was holding on to the ball too long.
Yeah.
Flat out. And, the Jets, it's a divisional rivalry. The Jets are certainly the effort's been there for the Jets. We'll give them credit for that. Frank Gore, you play this game to win. What I can say is that what keeps me up is how these young kids come in. I don't want to say kids. I'll say young men. They come in every week to work their behind off. That keeps me going. I know that they care. But the Jets just lost their top 3 cornerbacks. Pierre Desir got cut. Blessed Austin went on IR. Brian Poole went on IR. They started 3 rookies in the secondary yesterday, including both starting cornerbacks, Bryce Hall, Lamar Jackson. Wasn't a fair fight in that contest. Although it does look like Sam Darnold is going to be back for the Jets this week. The quote is that he has a good shot of playing on Sunday, and the Jets, are better with Darnold than they are with Flacco.
Teddy, you were talking here about the Dolphins quarterback situation. I'm usually not for, interchanging quarterback. I think it was the right move. I mean, you saw the spark offensively. Do you think Fitzpatrick takes most of the snaps here against the Jets?
No, Tua's going to take the snaps. Tua will be the starter, and I would doubt that Fitzpatrick will see the field in this game unless they need another spark.
Okay. And I'm kind of leaning here spot-wise towards the Jets. I mean, teams that are under the radar but still playing hard, in really across all sports can be a good bet just because they're so under the radar. They are home catching points. I mean, how interested are you in the Jets? I mean, they are 0-10.
Henry Anderson, defensive lineman, quote, "It's probably the most frustrated any of us have ever been playing football." And that's probably true. None of the kids from college that were on a bad teams make the NFL. You don't have the teams the guys who were on the 0-10 teams in college don't play on Sundays.
No.
Okay? None of these kids that had a team like this in high school.
No.
It's literally the most frustrated. No one's ever been through this.
Right.
Well, I mean, you played on the Jets, you've been through losing, but not like this. I think the Jets' effort may well be there. But again, if you're betting on the Jets, you're hoping the other team isn't showing up. Because the other team shows up, the Jets are going to get beat. And given the cluster injury situations for teams like the Jets and the Jaguars and the defense side of the football, all the value you want can come there. It doesn't matter if you don't have the horses. You can't play defense. Mm-hmm. And right now the Jets don't have the horses. I mean, Justin Herbert and the Chargers receivers did whatever they wanted to yesterday all game long. Miami may well be able to do the same thing here. This line, again, is 6.5, 7. I think if Darnold gets announced back in, it'll be 6.5. Darnold's worth something for compared to Flacco. He really is. Darnold doesn't throw that pick 6 that Flacco did at the start of the game. That ended up being the difference between winning and losing for the Jets.
Teddy, we got 267, 268 up next as we move on to the 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific kicks. We got New Orleans Saints at the Denver Broncos. Saints -5.5 or -6 road favorites, a mile high, 44.5 being the total here, Teddy.
A look ahead line, New Orleans -5.5. My powering number, New Orleans -7, and the market's in that 5.5, 6 range. That being said, I feel like I was interested in doodly-ooping on this total, but it's clearly stopped. There was money that came. There was a bunch of money came in on the under initially off the 46, but now we're seeing some buyback at 44.5. I'm seeing some over click, so it's that initial flurry. All right, you better get this doodly-oop. No, we don't need to get it anymore because it is what it is. Sitting at 44.5. So when you're reading the mainstream narrative about what the Saints looked like yesterday, I'm reading all this stuff about how wonderful Taysom Hill was, and he was the best quarterback ever, and Taysom Hill is the second. All right. If you watch that game, he played okay in the second half. He played okay. He was terrible. Taysom Hill was absolutely awful in that game for the first 25 minutes. And it wasn't like maybe. It was like, oh, my God, how did you put this guy in there over Jameis? And then second half, he calmed down a little bit. Maybe the game went a little bit slower. But and there were some bizarre play calls where you're like, Sean Payton, I hate these. McVay does the same thing. These coaches are like, oh, I've got this gadget guy. Let's try these funky trick plays. But that's not what you need. Run the freaking football. 3rd and 1, you'd have these bizarre play calls. 4th and 1, you had these bizarre play calls. Hill held the ball for indefinite periods of time behind center, and the receivers bailed him out a bunch. And the only guy you could see was Michael Thomas downfield. He was okay. He was not Drew Brees. He was not Jameis Winston. That being said, the Saints defense sacked Matt Ryan 8 times. and dominated the game. And that's a concern here for Denver. Look, I like this. Drew Lock played like a quarterback fighting for his job yesterday. It was really an inspired effort. You have a kicker in McManus who's a real weapon. And when this offense, when they can run the football, when Lindsey has room to run, the offense works. But Denver's having such a hard time turning yards into points. They got playmakers everywhere. Judy and Hamlet, I'll take that too as a wide receiver duo of the future. Heck yeah. You can run the football. You got playmaker on the outside. You get 459 yards, and you still have a chance to lose the game at the end. You only score 20 points. They're not putting the biscuit in the basket. The Saints are. We'll see. But in terms of where this number's going, I'm not going to sense it's moving anywhere right now. Again, look ahead was 5.5. My power rating number is 7, and we're looking at 5.5, 6 right now. I feel like it's sitting there flat. Don't necessarily love the Saints outdoors in the cold. But that New Orleans run defense is good enough, in theory, that if you make Drew Lock throw and there's no running game surrounding him, the Broncos can't score points.
All right, Teddy, we got 4 games left. We're going to have to book it down the stretch. Only about 10 minutes left. 269, 270, San Francisco at the LA Rams. We got Rams -6.5 or -7, 46.5 being the total. Limited marketplace here, though, Teddy.
Yeah, and I mean, the Rams play tonight, and there is a very limited marketplace on this game. We are going to see some San Fran money. Again, look ahead line here was Rams 7. My powering number is 6.5. And the markets are in that, that's 6.5, 7 range right now. Kyle Shanahan, quote, they needed some rest, need to get away. We'll have a couple of days just to keep guys loose, moving around a little bit so they don't get too far away from football. But this is as much of a needed rest as any team I've ever been on. It's worth noting, they're hoping for San Fran. They can get back Richard Sherman, Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert, Deebo Samuel, all back this week, which would be a better San Fran team than the one we've seen. It will be the Rams coming off a Monday night game. That said, if the Rams look good tonight and beat Tampa, they may well be 7 in this game. It's not going to hurt you if you make 1 bet to make 2. They're not going to be lower than 6.5 if they win the game against the Bucs.
Teddy well said. Correlated here, guys. If you like the Rams tonight or if you like the Bucs, it might be worth 2 bets, 1 on tonight, 1 on next week, depending on the team you like. We got Kansas City at Tampa Bay. Same situation here, Teddy. Limited marketplace with the Bucs playing tonight, but we're seeing the Chiefs -3-point road favorites, 53 the total.
Yeah, KC, look ahead was 3. My powering number is 3.5. The markets right now are at 3 with KC. I mean, do you know that Patrick Mahomes had never thrown a go-ahead touchdown pass in the final 2 minutes of a game until last night?
I didn't know that, no.
I didn't either. But the fact is, that's because the Chiefs are always ahead with 2 minutes to go. It's not like he had like fourth quarter comebacks before. Andy Reid, the best quote. I've got Pat Mahomes. You give me a minute and a half, and I'm pretty good right there. We can roll. I'll take him over everybody, and I'm lucky to have him. And that's the truth. And we're talking about this point spread range. We're talking about, the best team in the NFL, or the team that's been my best team in the NFL. We're talking about the opposing team coming off a short week. To me, 3 looks a little bit cheap there. And if the Bucs lose tonight, this will be higher than 3. Right now, we don't know, if the Bucs lose tonight. KC 36 first down yesterday, although you really can't compare the Raiders defense with the Bucs defense. But it'll be very interesting to see how, if Tampa looks good tonight, it comes 3. If Tampa doesn't look good tonight, this game's going to come higher.
Teddy, we got the Sunday nighter here. Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers. We're seeing 45.5 being the total. Packers -7 in the hook in Lambeau.
Yeah, look ahead line here with 7.5. My powering number is 6.5 in the game. The market's 7.5, and we're seeing some 8s pop up. We really don't know what's going on with Chicago quarterback situation. Nagy before the bye. When you lose 4 games in a row, it's all on the table. Everything's out there. The number one thing with Nick and with Mitch that we are concerned about right now is to make sure their health is the number one priority. They're both banged up. That's the number one thing we have to look at. We'll take this bye week and we'll self-scout ourselves, and we'll see the wheres and the whys, and whatever we need to do, we'll do it in a lot of different areas. Still going to be Bill Lazor calling the plays on offense. We don't know if Foles is going to go on with Foles or Trubisky this week in terms of which QB is healthy. We'll probably know that a little bit more as the week progresses. The Packers have now played 2 good defenses, and both times we've seen Aaron Rodgers turn the ball over. and both times we've seen Green Bay lose outright. Their special teams. Last week they gave up a 91-yard punt return to the Jags. This week, short punts from J.K. Scott that gave the Colts a good field position. They fumble on a kick return. That was, in my mind, the single most important play of the game besides the fumble in overtime. So Green Bay's having special teams issues. Worth noting that they lost yesterday. They only lost 3 times in the history of Aaron Rodgers, in which they led by 14 points or more. 2 of those 3 losses came in Indy.
Interesting stat there, Teddy. Good stuff, man. We got Teddy Covers here on Twitter at Teddy_covers. Check him out, Wager Talk or sportsmemo.com. His 5% NFL plays up over 60% on the year. He's hot right now in the NFL, 9-2, 82% November NFL. And my favorite stat, guys, 57% since the start of week 1, 2015. That's 209 and 160. 57% beating the NFL betting markets over the long term. It's $9 Monday, and he's got a play up right now at wagertalk.com. Texans Turkey Day Money Casher. Check it out, wagertalk or sportsmemo.com. This is the NFL opening line report each and every Monday, guys. Come and join us 10 a.m. Pacific start here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel, simulcast live, and also wherever you're downloading your podcast at the Sports Memo Podcast. Teddy, last look here, Seattle at Philadelphia in the Monday Nighter on November 30th. We're seeing the Seahawks minus 5-point road favorites, 51 being the total.
Yeah, this one's only going up. We can doodly-oop.
Doodly-oop?
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah, if you like Seattle, get there. Get there now at 5. Look ahead. That being said, look ahead line with Seattle 3. My powering number is 4.5. So there's a lot. There may be switching. We have to start with Philly because this is a team where, the coach came out last week, said everybody's pissed off after the loss to the Giants. They're ready to fight back. The defensive end said, Brandon Graham says, the bad practice habits are spilling over the games, and we're going to address it. All the senior leaders talked about it, and we're going to clean it up. And then they came in and had the same type of sloppy mess that they've had all year long. This is one list you don't want to be on. All right. 40-plus sacks, 10-plus interceptions, 10-plus fumbles for the first 10 games of the season. Only 2 quarterbacks in history have been on that list. David Carr in 2002. And remember when Carr went number 1 to the Texans. And to this day, I've never seen a quarterback get more ruined by bad offensive line play in his rookie year. Because every time he dropped back to pass, he got killed. And he was never the same QB after that. He never lived up to any expectations, unlike his brother. So David Carr in 2002 and Carson Wentz in 2020. Wentz is not the same quarterback now. He has been beaten up to 40-plus sacks, 10 INTs, 10 fumbles in the first 10 games. And everyone's saying, it's you, Wentz, it's you, Wentz, it's you, Wentz. And it is. It's the offensive line. It's the receiving core. It's everything. He came in to the game ranked 32nd in the NFL in completion percentage, 31st in yards per attempt, first in interceptions, first in sacks. Eagles have matched a season low in points in back-to-back weeks. And everyone's saying, bring in Jalen Hurts, bring in Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts will have the same problem behind that offensive line, okay? Doug Peterson, quote, if you get to that spot where you don't start him or you bench him, I think you're sending the wrong message to your football team that the season is over, and that's a bad message. We have to work through this. When times get tough, sometimes that might be the easy thing to do. This sport is bigger than one guy. We all have a hand in it, and we all have to fix it. I agree. Wentz, it's in his head right now, but the problems aren't just Wentz's. All that said, all of a sudden the Seahawks are putting pressure on the line of scrimmage. I keep on bringing up Carlos Dunlap, man. Carlos Dunlap has been difference maker. When they picked him up, I'm like, this guy's going to be and he's had 3.5 sacks, 7 QB hits, 5 tackles for loss in just 3 games for Seattle. He played almost every snap over the weekend. They could well have worth noting, a quote from Pete Carroll said his backfield's returning to full strength. They didn't have to run early on, quote, but now we do, and you can see it. As the defenses are catching up and they're slowing things down in the passing game and not as many points are being scored, you've got to balance out and have everything available. Chris Carson, likely back this week, brings us that. Seattle likely to run the football more this time around. That may not be great for overbetters.
For Teddy Covers, I'm Drew Martin, guys. That does it for the NFL opening line report. Teddy will be back on for college football, every game on the board on Wednesday, so come back and join us. We'll talk